Well, Chris, let's start with last night. I would imagine the coaching team very happy with what was a pretty complete performance.
Yes, it was. I think it was probably more like we are and what we want to be. I don't think we probably did yourself enough justice on Saturday. We made a couple of changes, which we were going to do anyway. And the lads come in. When we play the way we play and the style of play that we want to play, and we do what we're told to do, it definitely helps. And I think you seen that last night. But I was just really happy that the lads enjoyed it. We know we've got goals in the team. We created a few chances and we didn't create enough on Saturday. So, but it's still early days.
Yeah, and you've recruited over the summer to get a bit more competition in certain positions, and for that to work, the new signings have got to come in and do a job. And whether it's Jason Knight getting a couple of goals, Hayden playing really well on the left hand side, Rob being nice and solid in centre back, you seem to have, so far the plan's working.
Yes, and it's something that we've worked on, and Nigel's longer than me, isn't it? You've been here, longer than anybody. But it's over the last few years, it's been trying to get that squad to be Nigel's squad. We've had to move players out, and there's been a lot of different things going on off the pitch, which we know. So we're getting there. It's never finally done. You're always looking to tweak and to get in. But we think that the acquisitions that we've made have really improved. They're good people as well. Which is very, very important to us.
Yeah, and unfortunately there are outs as well as ins. And Alex Scott, looks like it's moving along. Is there any change since last night in terms of that situation?
No, it's probably above my pay grade, as you say. Nigel made a statement on last night that there'd been a bid accepted and he was going to go and have a medical. So for us, then we just move on. We're getting ready for the Millwall game, and whatever happens, like everything. He would want Scotty to leave the team. He would want to, you've got to be honest and say nobody does, but at the end of the day, if the price is right, and it's a move that Alex wants to do, that's the way it is. But Bristol City will be always a big part of his life if he ends up going, and give him an unbelievable opportunity to. I think Nigel gave him his debut. I think in April, was it a couple of years ago. He's played 90 games. Would other coaches have given young players as much a chance as they have? So it's Nigel's probably like his big uncle. I wouldn't say his father, but he's introduced him into the professional game, and I think for anybody to leave the club would be disappointed. But at the end of the day, that is football. With Bristol City, we're here and we're playing Millwall on Saturday, so that's our biggest goal at the moment.
Yeah, and he certainly repaid that, didn't he, as a player? I would imagine as a coach, you're working with him day in, day out. He seems like the kind of person who you'd want to be working with day in, day out, because you can see, even in the space of a couple of years, how far he'd come.
Yeah, and I think that's been given the opportunity. And I think that's the biggest thing for any player, young player, and it's a belief. Over the 90 games, was he outstanding in every game? There's not many people that are, but you've got to stick with them and they've got to learn their trade sometimes in a hard environment that the championship is. So for him, I think he's got huge respect for Nigel, because Nigel said to him, if you do what I want you to do, you'll play. And he was true to his word. And the lad has come in and he's done unbelievably well. He's a top player. We all know that. So, we want him to do well. He's a great guy around the place, and I think we all feel, he wouldn't be leaving under a cloud or anything. You're going, he's worked your socks off. He's never changed. He's plays for England. He comes back and he's picking discs up. He's out doing, with Belly and Tommy shooting, and there's no change in the kid. And I think for us, it's hugely important for the young players to see that are coming up behind them. But that's the way it is. You don't change. You don't get above your station. It's all about playing on the Saturday, and if you do what you're supposed to do, you'll get an opportunity here. And so all the best. But he hasn't gone yet.
No.
So let's see what happens.
Absolutely, and I think what you say about the example there is perfect, because we look at some of the other youngsters, Ethan making his debut last night, but Sam Bell looks a different player than he did maybe 6 months ago. All of these kids are developing and coming on, almost maybe what you tell me, quicker than you expected.
No, I think because they're all different. They're all different individuals. They're all human beings. They all handle things differently. With Belly, he went out to Grimsby. Do you remember he went on loan, and sometimes we haven't let Tommy go out on loan, because we thought that was the best way for him to grow in this environment and to learn, and for us to kind of keep a real tight reins on him. Belly we sent out, it didn't work out probably the way he wanted it to, but what it was learning in an invaluable way, because that's it's 3 points and we're in the team. The disappointment, handling it, dealing with it, and Belly, he's flying at the moment, isn't he? And he again, you know, we all talk about the nice guys. You know, the nice guys do well. You know, it's always the bad guys. We've got some great kids and they're great lads, and they'll do very well. Have they come quicker than we thought? I don't think so, because I think again opportunity. And if they're doing well on a Monday to Friday here, they'll play on a Saturday. There's nothing about fees or what you're earning or your age. It's about the best team that we can get out on a Saturday. That's why we're all here. You know, we don't sit in a room and say, you know, I'll tell you what, we play in because we paid this or we did that. We need to go and win games of football. So I think the young boys have really given us food for thought as well, and it's probably shocked some of the older players because they're thinking, I won't get in the team here, and it's about competition.
One of those older players couldn't play midweek. How's Andy coming in terms of would he be available for the weekend?
We'll see. I think that the weekend might be a little bit soon for him, but we'll see. He's in London to see a specialist, and I feel for him because he's had a huge summer. It's a great summer. He's been flying, and he's a running man, as we all know. And to run, you need your heel to push off. And at the moment, it's nothing. And I think that's probably the most frustrating part for him, is that everything else is right. The body's right. There's no injuries as such as he would call it. It's just a plantar fascia in the heel. So every time he plants his foot, he gets a shooting pain, which we've seen. You know, as soon as it happened the other day, we could see that every time he planted his foot, he didn't want to come off. He's had a great pre-season. He's chomping at the bit. So hopefully today we get some good news, and we'll see what the specialists can do with that. But it's not going to be a huge long-term thing, we'd hope. It's settling it down and making sure that he's right, because again it goes back to competition, as you've said. When he comes into the team, he has to do well. He has to have that 100% belief that he can do well to stay in the team, because if not, he knows there's other people, you know, flying around trying to get into his position.
So Cal was back, who wasn't available at the weekend. Anybody else getting close that they might be involved at the weekend, or are they still a little bit away?
No, at the moment it is as it is. It was brilliant for Cal. I think to get back in, he's had so many little niggling injuries, and that he's probably starting to doubt himself what was happening to his body. But people get like that sometimes. You pick up a little niggle here and a niggle there, not major injuries, but something that keeps you off the pitch. And you've spoken to him. He's a blood and thunder, 110% man, and wants to be in the middle of everything. So it was very, very difficult for him. So it was brilliant. What we were quite laughing at was he came on as a pivot. So how he ended up 6 yards outside, taking a touch off Naki and finishing it so with such a plum, we don't know, but he showed real quality, didn't he? So it's a real added boost for us and for the lads, because he's great around the place. And I think when you're back in, you're never the same mentality when you're injured, when you're walking around. You can smile and say you're great, but you're never great. You know you're not great. Really, you just want to be on the grass. And for him to get that little cameo last night, to get that goal. But I thought he played the position very well when he came on as well, and it's what we wanted to see from him. More than the goal was an added bonus. We wanted to see him moving again and playing in the position that he played in last night, and I think he did well when he came on. So that's really, really good from him, and again, it's good for us. So
Saturday, Millwall, who have sort of last couple of seasons have really made strides from being mid-table to pushing right up there. What are the problems that they'll present you on Saturday?
Problems would be, the sad thing really, I think it's going to be a real emotional day for Millwall, and I think John Beryl's going to be there for 16 years, met him a couple of times after games. Lovely guy, an American, going in and into Millwall, and gradually built the club as it's gone, hasn't it? He's been a huge part of that, so it's going to be emotional, and I think that will be emotional. You'll have an emotional team. You'll have a very fervent crowd, getting behind them and wanting to mark that day with a win. And I think that's something that we're going to have to manage when we get there. But they've done brilliantly, haven't they? And Gary Rowell, I think he's the second longest serving manager in the Championship. He's been given time to gradually just start building the team. It doesn't make huge changes, but it's subtle changes. So he's bringing players in that are maybe a little bit better in different positions, and they've kind of changed the way they've played. So they've kept a little bit of that kind of sometimes directness, that hard work, structured bit of play, but there's some real good bits of quality, real good quality players in there. So it's going to be a difficult game, and I think what they've shown after the win at Middlesbrough, never mind the Carabao Cup, midweek. I think at the win going away to Middlesbrough, where everybody's thinking, how are they going to bounce back after the disappointments of last season? They've shown a real strength, so I think it's going to be a difficult game. But every game's a difficult game, and if we want to be where we want to be and where we think we should be, it's a game that we should relish and look forward to the challenge. And I think that's what we'll do.
Thank you very much.
With Cal, you mentioned about him coming on as a pivot.
Yes.
I appreciate you don't want to pigeonhole players, but is that kind of where you see him playing this season, mainly?
Well, we can say that, and then you'll probably see him playing somewhere else next week, and you say he was lying to me, so I can't say that to you. We've spoken to you before, and we've spoken to you over the last couple of years, as Nigel said, and we've been trying to get players who can play in different positions. So instead of having a squad of 35, you can have a squad of 25. But you've got guys that can play in 3 or 4 different positions, which Cal gives us the option to. Last night he came on in there just to have a look. That's where we wanted to see him play. And the 2 centre backs, are starting to form that relationship at the moment. So I think the more minutes they play, the better they'll get together as that partnership or unit. So I think for us it was just important. And I think as well as when you go into the midfield area, you've got to run a little bit more. And I think that was good for him again to get around the pitch and ask him to get around the pitch and get those 35 minutes or 36 minutes of high energy in. So we won't pigeonhole him just yet, but you've seen the quality that he has, and he can play in numerous positions. He's played left back, he's played left wing. He can play in a 3, he can play in a 4, so he can play as a pivot. So he gives us lots of options, as I said, and he's a leader with that. So it's a great one for us.
You must have enjoyed Aidan Roberts' performance last night.
Yes.
Given kind of, I know it's a reduced crowd, but still his debut.
Yes.
First time a lot of fans would have seen him.
Yes.
And he played like he's been here a couple of years. Really.
Yeah, isn't it great? And again, 22-year-old has come in. He hasn't played left back a lot, through his career. If you want to look back, he's played wing back most of it, and then he started off as a left centre back, playing the academy kind of football where he probably didn't head it as much. It was all ball playing and stuff, and then he's kind of grown into that. So again, he's been settling in very well. We think there's a lot more to come from him though. I don't think what you've seen last night is going to be the finished article by no means. I think there's things that he will need to improve on. But we've been working with him after training a couple of sessions this week as well, just kind of generally just getting to know him and getting that that relationship with him. He's come here because he knows that young players will get a chance here, and you can see last night he's a confident guy. He's more confident probably on the pitch with the ball than he is off it. He's very quiet off the pitch, but last night I thought for a cameo for the fans was great, and as I said, he's there's a lot more growth in the lad, and we're looking forward to working with him.
What do you see him becoming then? Without wanting to put too much on him, but like what parts of his game?
Yeah, well, I don't think he hasn't played left back. So in the championship, there's a lot of tough teams. You really get and that defensive aspect of your game has to be as good as your attacking, part of your game. So we can see he's technical and working on some of the defensive stuff. We think again that when you're playing wing back, you receive in different areas. You receive it, he's quite comfortable going to the midfield area when he's playing in a 4, but when you're playing as a wing back, that doesn't really happen as much. So I think they're little bits that we do, and what he'll do is he'll give us another dimension, because everybody's different. So I'll play a full back and George will play full back, but we'll play it differently. Pringle will play left back and Hayden will play left back, but it's different. So that again adds us something. So that gives us an option for every game that we play.
His relationship with Anis as well seems to be really good.
Yes, yeah, and
just the way they're interchanging.
Yeah.
Yes,
I know. And it's growing, and it's a good thing to see. And again, it's something that we've looked at through pre-season. It's looked at the different movements that they have to make, and again, getting used to where people end up, the positions. Where do we want Anis to get the ball? Where do we want Hayden to get it? If you can't get it there, where else can we go? And I think that they're working on that. Again, it worked well at times last night, didn't it? And when they're like that, they will cause anyone a problem. So again, it's very good for them. And Anis has had a good pre-season. And again, he seems to go under the radar a little bit. Anis, he's still a young player trying to make his way, so he's still growing. So it's good that the two players could get on like that. But again, we still have to be demanding of the other things.
You mentioned George there. it was evident last night he was perhaps a bit more on the front foot than he was against Preston. I'm just wondering, because obviously Hayden and Cam are quite, well, certainly Cam now, maybe not so much last season where Nigel mentioned about he needs to bring more of the attacking side to his game. With George, is that he doesn't attack quite as much? Is that as much with him, or is that instruction specifically that he's not as aggressive because perhaps the other side is?
No, there has to be a balance. There's no doubt there has to be a balance in this, but it all depends on the shape. You're playing with two pivots, your fullbacks can go where they want, really, can't they? You know, if you play with one pivot, you've got to be a little bit more careful. But I would say that the manager has said to us, and we all know that we're a front foot team, and front foot means running. And front foot means, you know, trying to affect the opposition as quick as you can, and we think that George could probably do that more. He's shown his ability. We thought about the ball he played for Belly last year against West Brom. It was unbelievable. We still remember it now, you know, that lovely shape, bro, going, what you're doing, and it's a wonderful ball into the box for Belly. So he has that. So again, it's something that we're pushing him and pushing him to do. But again, he's a young player. He's still learning, and I think that we can't be too harsh on these lads and these kids. You know, it's tough sometimes. Pre-season's great, but then sometimes you go out with 24,000 people, and I never get too carried away, because it's the one thing that we can't replicate as coaches. We can do everything. We can talk about movements. We can do all that. But what about when the ball goes under your foot and you hear 24,000 people groan? Or you put your first cross over the bar and the crowd, oh, and you're running back thinking, oh God, you know. So I think they're different things. So it's something that we think we can grow with George. But again, look at the strides he's made in the last couple of seasons. Wow, would we be thinking that would be as quick and he'd look as strong as he has done?
Just on, sorry, it's a bit Curtis Fleming on fullbacks, but on Ross, is there any development regarding, Nigel says maybe a bit of a delicate one in terms of his
yes, it is. It's literally just see how it goes. You know, we're striving to get him back, and he's frustrated. He's come to make an impact, and he hasn't been onto the grass and that. But I said to him, you know, he's probably got 12 years left in the game, so don't panic if he misses it 12 more days. He's got to be right for us. And it is a delicate one, but we're working on it and striving to get him onto the pitch. As I said, we haven't got a huge squad, but again, he gives us option to play 3 or 4 positions again. So it'd be great to get him back in as soon as we can.
With Raf and Jamie, has a decision been made on what is likely to happen to them this season, or is that, I'm talking about loans?
Yes, no, that hasn't, to be fair. We're looking at them. They're involved at the moment, and we've got to see what happens with them. And as I said, it's a huge part of what we are, and the communication that we have as a club. And we speak to teams on a daily or hourly basis probably, and we talk about all the young players. And none of the young players are forgotten. I think sometimes you get a split. You know, it's kind of the first team and the academy, and you're kind of saying, who is that kid and where is he from and stuff like that. No, we've got knowledge of everybody, and we'll do the best that we can for them. At the moment, they're training with us day in, day out. So they've got Belly running at them, and they've got Naki running at them, and they've got Anis trying to twist them into the ground. So it's good learning for them. So at the moment, there's been no decisions, but that will come.
Thanks, Curtis.
No problem.
Hi Curtis. Just in regards to young players, so Eamon Benarouz, back-to-back ACL injuries. Is he someone that perhaps would benefit from a loan move because of how long he's been out and obviously the physical demands of the Championship? Yeah,
but I think we've got to be careful when we do it. We have to make sure that he's 100% before he goes anywhere. There's no point in rushing the lad. We know his ability. We know what he's got. He was very, very unlucky. I was here when he got I was doing the session, in fact, when he got that second ACL injury, and it was heartbreaking, to be fair. I don't really get emotional, but I was gutted for him. And I was emotional that day because I thought, it was the last kick of the training session. So he's had a hard battle, battle back, but mentally, we played the South African team here last week, so it was sport, and he was great, and he wasn't jumping out of anything. We were kind of cringing when there was tackles going in and saying, please don't get injured again. So we'll be very, very careful with him, and we'll build him, and when he's ready he will go out. But again, he's got a big future to play for Bristol City, hasn't he? We all know his ability and what he's got to bring to the table, but let's not rush the kid and let him get another setback. He shows some amount of resilience to get back to where he is at the moment, and I think we've got to be careful with him, but maybe not too careful.
Sorry to keep on the topic of injuries,
Okay.
but obviously with Tommy Conway this week getting injured, Nige said that he's trying to like reduce the risk of getting injuries on the training ground. He said in games injuries can happen. Obviously you can't fully like eradicate injuries, but does it perhaps change your approach again because obviously it's a recurring injury for Tommy Conway?
Well, it's not reoccurring because it's the other leg. So it's you know what I mean. If it had been the same one, then you would say, okay, have we rehabbed it? Has the strength in it and whatever? It's just a different injury that's come, and there's no doubt we look at everything. We have to look at everything. He's a huge part of what we are, and there's no doubt you'll be involved now if he wasn't injured. So, and to have the opportunity to call on him off the bench. For us, when you look behind you and you see the quality that we have, and you've got Tommy there, you think, yeah. So again, we've got to be careful with him. It's something that we're always looking at. There's no way, there's that many staff now, and there's that much work put into the fitness side of it and the scientific side of it, that we get disappointed if there's an injury, but we look at the depths of it, and we talk about it again every day. Disappointing for him, but again, he's got to stand up and man up, get rehab done. You won't be out for years, be out for a couple of months, we hope, but you've got to be ready to hit the ground when he comes back.
And I'm aware that there's nothing done in regards to Alex Scott. Obviously 2 goals for Jason Knight last night. I know that when he was brought into the club, he wasn't brought in to be Alex Scott's replacement, but do you think that if anything were to happen that he'd be more than capable of being that replacement perhaps?
Yeah, no, he's a different entity, he's a different player. I think we would have liked to tell them. It'd be great, wouldn't it? 2 Alex Scotts. No, but there isn't. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that we have Scotty and Knighty's come in. Knighty's come in because he's a really good acquisition for the club and for the team. He's a young player. He's a current international, Irish international, which is great. And I just think it's important. He showed his qualities last night. Nigel's been speaking about trying to get some more goals from midfield. We didn't get enough last year. I mean, you've probably seen with Scotty this season. In the pre-season games, with a lot more shots on target, a lot more attacking play from the midfield players. So again, Knighty comes in and he's a different entity, and he's someone that we're really enjoying working with. Not that we say Rob has done brilliant and Hayden, but I thought last night showed a real quality to where he can and where the areas he's going to end up in. And I think that's something that we've missed, and I think that's a real added one for us. So as I said, Scotty hasn't gone yet. Let's see what happens. But at the end of the day, Jason Knight's here to stay. So we're looking forward to that.